This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 62.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 62, and this week I've got a very special guest for you. His name is Manuel. He's the founder of Growing with Gratitude, where he teaches kids positive habits. Really interesting episode, so enjoy today's show. Hi, Ashley, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Hi, Alex. How are you, mate?
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is that you do as a business?
Yeah, so my name's Manuel. I've been a primary school teacher for 11 years. Then I decided to take a different path, and or for a start, so I live in Australia. I'm from Adelaide, in Down Under, and so I decided to take a different path and create it's a business that teaches. It's a primary school / elementary school business that teaches kids positive habits based on gratitude, kindness, mindfulness, and optimism, and serving others in particular. But there was a bit of a story behind why I created it. But that's basically the short version of what the program does. So yeah, that's what we do, and it's going really well. And it's not just a program for Australia; it's actually a global program. And I'd love to talk more about what we exactly do.
And I'd love to hear more about what exactly you do.
Yeah, sure. So what we've done is we've created, basically going back about 2 years ago, I was just, because I started to learn about what it means to be successful, and what I came across was these property investors that were really successful property investors, and what I found was that their happiness led to their success. Then I looked into that further. Okay, that sounds interesting. And then I found out that they were talking about gratitude. Gratitude led to their happiness, and then happiness led to their success. And so I started to go down a different path and look into, okay, hey, what's this gratitude thing about? And then I looked and read a lot of material, listened to a lot of stuff, and understood that gratitude could be cultivated through doing different little daily habits, if you like. And so that's what I started to do myself. And I learned these when I was in my early 30s. So I thought, well, hang on, I'm a primary school teacher. These activities that I do that have really helped me, I can adapt these down at a kid's level. So I thought, okay, why don't I create something that is going to teach kids as soon as they start school positive habits based on gratitude, kindness, and what I mentioned before, mindfulness and optimism and service, and create this well-being program for primary schools. And so at the time I just started, so I didn't really have any idea what I was doing, no business background whatsoever. So I just started to develop, lessons based around those things. Then I started to, okay, that's not going to work, I don't think. Then so I just sort of like zigzagged and got to a stage where I was just doing something every day to, work myself towards creating something. And since that day I started, I never had a day off working in the business, and that was at a time when I was still working full-time as a primary school teacher. And as time evolved, it developed. I tested the program with schools, with small groups of kids. Then we did last year in 2015, about halfway through the year, we did a huge test of the program with 600 kids, with a group with a couple of professors from the University of South Australia. And we scientifically tested to see how it really affected the kids, and that was a huge thing, because what we found that although the scientific paper is about to be released, it hasn't quite been released yet, but there's a lot of positives that have come from that testing, and there's a lot of benefit for the kids to do it in school, in their classroom, with academic results, but also building relationships. Building those features in a child's life where they can deal with situations because they have learnt these habits. So like those things that maybe when a kid hasn't been so nice to someone else, they've developed those habits to not even worry about it. So they're focusing on the positives in their day through the program rather than the negatives, and that's really important to learn. Like it's a strong skill to learn, because if we Kids, obviously, kids are kids, and sometimes they can be quite nasty to each other. So, if kids can learn to focus on the positive rather than something a little negative that happened in the day, I think that's one of the biggest things that the program brings, along with a number of other things as well. But yeah, that's sort of how the program evolved, and now I can say that I'm proud that I've been able to go to this full time now, and try to make a difference in the world. So that's a quick version of how I got to where I am today, Alex.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear, Ashley, and this is a good thing that you're doing. And I think, gratitude is not an important thing just for kids. It's for all of us. And I think it's a great idea to teach them since they're young. But the question is here about your specific program. How is it applied in schools? I'm curious. Is it like an extra class, or are the teachers trained to apply it, or your team comes in and implements it? Like, how exactly is it implemented?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a teacher myself, I understood that teachers always get stuff added to them, added to their day. So they're expected to do all this other stuff, that something new comes up and the school expects the teachers to learn, and then they're overloaded with all this new stuff they have to learn, and it can be quite a stressful environment. So understanding that, I wanted to create something that was really easy for teachers to implement. So it's like a kind of like a done for you model, where basically anyone can do it. Like, it's not a hard program to learn. I can come in and explain it to schools, which is great. I've done Skype sessions with the school staff before. They've set up the Skype on the big screen in the staff room, and I've come in and talked about it. But that's not necessarily like 100% a necessity. So I've set it up so it's really easy to implement. It's based on daily habits. So it's something that the idea is to do it every day. If a teacher can't, that's fine. But it's based on short 2 to 10 minute positive habits. And there's basically the way it works. If you remember the twister game, where you spin the wheel and whatever color it lands on, and you put your left foot on red or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's like a wheel like that. So it's a wheel. You spin the wheel. There's 15 activities on there, and 3 of them help cultivate gratitude. 3 of them help cultivate kindness. 3 of them, it's called something called a well-being warrior, which involves reading something, not necessarily just like a fun kids non-fiction book. It's like actually reading a non-fiction book that the kids are going to learn something from. A well-being warrior also includes exercise and meditation. And then there's another one 3 that help cultivate reflecting on positives. And there's another 3 called Operation Home Service, which means kids are learning to do stuff in the home to help around the home. And the idea behind that is to get kids doing things for other people, but starting in a comfortable environment at home, doing things for their family. And then the next step would be to go to school and help around the school community and serve the school in a variety of ways that could be possible at school. And then the next step is to take that out into the community and serve and do things out in the local community. So, and then there's 3, as I said, there's 3 activities focusing on those things. And basically what happens is a student or the teacher, whoever spins the wheel on the day, and whatever the activity lands on for that day, that's what the class does. So, and so the idea behind that is to keep it interesting for the kids, so that they're not just learning these positive habits like, okay, today we're going to do our 3 habits, like the same 3 little positive activities every day. So the idea is to keep a variety, so it keeps it interesting for the kids. There's a fun element because the spin wheel, the wheels involved, so we spin it, and it's pretty exciting for the kids to see what it lands on for the day. And it's really easy for the teachers to implement. There's the resources that come with the program. There's a booklet that explains exactly how the program works. It's only a short 15 or 18 pages around there, just to quickly read through to explain why the program was developed, how it works, and some of the reasoning behind some of the studies that have been done, why gratitude is great for kids and why it's important to learn that, for example. So explains that, and there's some other resources that help run the program. So that's how it's done in the classroom, and also on the website there's a free resource library for teachers, and so what they can do, they can access the free resource library, and what's on there is, so in schools quite often we do units of work, so it might be doing a topic, focus on a topic for say 4 weeks, and we might do one 45-minute lesson a week for 4 weeks to focus on a topic. So there's primary school level or elementary school level, depending on where you live in the world. There's 4 week blocks of work for each year level, focusing on 1 year level focus on gratitude, one will focus on kindness, one might focus on optimism. So I've created those just as a starting point for teachers if they're not sure where to start. But the good thing about that library is that teachers can actually add to that library. So if they've got some ideas, they can actually share them and post them up on the library. So we're creating a bit of a community where teachers are helping each other to build their library. And I've created it, but I don't want to be that person who, okay, let's do this. Like, I think you should do this. I want the community to own it, so they can run it and do what they want to add to that community by uploading resources to the library. And also in that library, there's some pretty cool little templates and posters that teachers can use to use with their kids. And also, Alex, there's a home version. So basically what I found when I started was that a lot of parents who have kids in that age group at primary school and elementary school missed out on this positive psychology and learning about gratitude. And if they were like me, I stumbled across it by accident in a way. So I wanted to incorporate the family as well. So the Growing with Gratitude has a family version, so families can do it at home. It's a really good bonding activity to do at home as well. So going a little bit off the question, but yeah, that's how it's implemented at school. But also there's a home version as well.
Very interesting, and it seems very helpful. Now, let's move a bit more towards the main subject of the podcast, which is, of course, business.
Yep.
And you're working on this really interesting and amazing program, but at the same time you're a teacher, which is usually means rather stable job with a stable income. And you've decided to switch gears and move from this stable job to entrepreneurship, to doing something on your own. And this is usually a really big step in the life of anyone. How did you manage to make that decision and actually move on and start doing what you're doing now full time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. I think I came to a time in my life where I realised, okay, it's a thing to I love teaching. I love doing that, but it's when it comes down to it, it's you judge by a bell. So your life's run by a bell. So you got to rock up to school at a certain time. You got to leave at a certain time. And if I've got to do that until I'm 60 or 65 years of age, I was thinking, do I really want to do that all that time? So I thought, and at the time, I didn't really know where the program was going, but then I realised, hang on, I can create something here, and I can create the lifestyle where basically I can live on my terms. So I've used this as a vehicle as well to create the lifestyle that I sort of want to, and that was a big thing for me because I've discovered that probably later in life. I wish I was taught this a lot earlier, and this is the kind of thing that I want to push across to kids through the program as well. Is that I guess through where we live, like we can be grateful for all the things that we have in the world. Like at the end of the day, if my program failed and didn't take off, which I would have liked, I'm always got a job to go back to, or I've got people who around me who love me enough to support me, and I'm always going to have food. I'm fortunate enough to always have someone to live if something goes wrong. So I thought, okay, let's just go out and have a go. And I thought, I want to live on my terms. I want to be able to do what I want when I want, be where I want, when I want. And so I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's have a go. At the end of the day, if it fails, I've always got something to go back to. And I've got people around me who love me enough just to take a bit of a risk and go out there and have a go. So that's the reason why I thought, let's do this. Let's have a go at creating something that not only can make a difference in the world, but creating something where I can live on my terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And it's great when you have people that would support your decisions and support you in whatever you're doing. I'm sure that helps, like, tremendously.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, without the support around you, it's it's very hard to achieve anything. And I've learned that. Yeah, I've learned so much this last couple of years because I never had a entrepreneurial bone in my body. I never and never had any family members that were entrepreneurs. It was all we all worked for a job for our money, and that's just the way we're brought up, and that's just the way society is around the world. I came across it, just by looking into different stuff and understanding that you can build something if you're creating something that is of service to others and people can really benefit from. Then you can create that. Through that, you can create a lifestyle exactly how you want. And I found that not only like relationships with the close people that like the family that love you and the friends that are really close with you, but building those relationships as you develop a business, like it's probably taken. I didn't really do too much connecting and building relationships around the business side at the start. It took me probably over a year, I reckon, to realise I was just doing everything on my own. And then I realised, hang on, if I can reach out to people and build relationships, and I learned this through reading a lot of books and through listening to podcasts like yours, Alex, and understood that, okay, if you build connections, build relationships, and help each other, it's just going to expand your business straight away. So yeah, having that support around you as a family, but also as other people, other like-minded people, is huge, I reckon, when you start to build a business.
Mm-hmm. Very important stuff. And I've been seeing that more and more in personal experience as well. Building those online relationships even helps a lot when building a business.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And that's the thing. Like, how lucky are we the day that we live in? Like, you don't even have to like see the person. Like, we're on different sides of the world and we're having a conversation, and you can do exactly the same thing, building relationships with anyone around the world now. So we're in a time where it's the best time to be doing anything you want. So I think if we can make the most of it, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And actually, the next question here is: so you've created this training, you know what you're doing, you know who you're targeting, who your targeted audience is, and now another hard step comes in that we all have to go through. Now you need to actually find those clients and pitch to them or market to them, as we call it. So how did you find clients for your for your service?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I guess I'm coming from an area that I know quite well. So I've got a lot of connections just particularly in my local town, because there's schools everywhere, obviously, like throughout the world. So my market is massive. Like, so I was really lucky for a start to have that really big market, and it's something that is not just it's not just something like in my local area that need this. This is a worldwide. It's probably not an issue, but a lot of schools that I've spoken to locally, where I'm from in Adelaide, Australia, and America, like the US, I've spoken to a lot of teachers over there in different parts of the world, the UK. And the problem is that, there's this well-being out there. We know that gratitude helps us, but teachers look at each other and thinking, okay, that's great. We know it's important, but how do we do it? So I knew there was a market there to really hone in on creating a great program that teachers can use to help cultivate gratitude and kindness, and those sort of positives that I spoke about at the start. So I knew there was something there. So it wasn't that hard to reach out to those people who I knew for the start. Just 10 or 12 at the start, saying, okay, this is what I'm creating. What do you think? And then it led from there. So I understood, this is something that the schools need. So I was just able to reach out to my without really having a proper email list through the business. I had an email list just through contacts that I had through school, because I'm I'm a physical education teacher, so we would have a big group of emails that get sent out to all they call independent schools, the group that I'm in, the group of teachers that I was involved with at independent schools. So we would often have big group emails. I had a lot of emails already, so I was able to reach out to them and just say, hey guys, I'm just doing this. I can send you some information if you'd like to take a look. And then I'd send the information out, and there was a free resource library that through the program that they could sign up for, and that's how I'd gain their email. And it sort of just slowly evolved doing it that way. And then the word of mouth would get out. Then I'd present at schools. I'd present at different conferences where all teachers from around Australia would come. It just started slowly, but gradually to pick up, and that's how I started to build it. And I think, it's one of those industries, teaching is where you do have access to a lot of schools' contact details already, because they're public, they're everywhere. Like, they're on the websites, they come to you in different groups that you're involved in as a teacher, and different school associations. So I was really lucky to have a wide reach already, but then I just had to, I guess, capture their email into my, growing the gratitude funnel, if you like, and convert it from just having an email there, like from my teaching, to actually putting it into the business. And then I was able to create like a bit of a sequence of emails, just, okay, this is what I'm doing, these are the steps you need to take. And it just started there. And also, not just that, I contacted schools. I did a bit of hard work. I sat down and just did the old traditional ring up a school and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm really happy with our program. We've scientifically tested it. It's found to improve this, and that. And I can send you some information. And I just did that. And just over time, just doing little bits every day, and slowly built up, and created a great list, and a lot of schools were on board. So we've got about 43. How many? Sorry, the latest is, I think it's 43. 43 schools or teachers involved in the program. 43 countries where teachers or schools are involved in the program. So it's something that is growing reasonably quickly. Now, that doesn't mean that they all paying schools at this stage, but what it means is that they're involved in the program somehow. So that might mean they're accessing the free resource library. So that's the little first step. So they access it's like the lead generator, I guess. Like, they access the library, they sign in with their email, register with their email. I get their email, then they go through the sequence. I've got that to either they can sign up through being a teacher, a parent, or a school. And so I've got those 3 different email lists which I continually contact. And then the idea is at the end of the day to make a sale, so they can implement the program at school fully by using the resources, or the parents at home can can purchase the resources to implement the program at home. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And man, seriously, congratulations! 43 countries. This is huge.
Yeah, it's something that I really wanted to target. Instead of, I don't know, I'm not sure if I've gone about it the right way, but I just wanted to create a global program. So some people might say, start in your local market, but I had a big vision straight away. So my goal was to create a global wellbeing program for primary schools. So anyone who's in a primary school, I want them to recognise the Growing with Gratitude, logo, where it's, and they can relate to what it means. So when they see the logo, they understand that, this is that wellbeing program. This is developed to help us create these positive habits in our lives as kids or as parents. So it's really something that I want to grow as a whole, as a global primary school program. So it's possible to do, and I'm really excited about the progress that it's taking and direction that it's going in. So it's definitely possible, and hopefully this year is going to be the year where a lot of action is going to happen, and a lot of growth will happen. So hopefully we can expand into a few more countries. My goal is to get into 50 countries. That was my original goal. And hopefully once we get there, which hopefully won't be too far away, and then we can expand and see where it goes and take it from there. But it's a positive start, and looking forward to seeing where that global part of the business goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds totally awesome. And I think one of the reasons you might have gone as far as you did is the fact that you had a huge goal in mind. And as you said, you thought big from the get-go. Not big, you were thinking huge, not just big, because going globally, going worldwide is something that I think a lot of people would never even dream of. So if you don't think of it, you'll never try it. Agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't, I think, and that's one of the things, Alex, that I've developed over the years as well. And if you don't know, if you don't try, how are you ever going to know? And I don't want to look back in 5, 10, 20, 30 years time and thinking, why didn't I just, or for a start, why didn't I have a go at this? Which I did have a go, but why didn't I try to create this massive global program that who knows if it takes off, where different branches could go. Like this is thinking long term. Like, okay, you get this big global program out there. Who knows? Like cartoons, positive cartoons could come of this. Merchandising could come. Who knows where it's going to go? But it's just a matter of starting and thinking, having a vision, and then just going for it and just taking one step at a time. Okay, first goal, let's get this program fully established. I didn't want to go in creating a program that wasn't proven to work, because at the end of the day, like if I'm creating, like who's this like it's like a bit of the Brene Brown TED talk on well, I can't remember what it's called, but it's talking about worthiness. Like, who am I? Like, how am I worthy to create something that hopefully going to change the world? But at the end of the day, like if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And so I thought, okay, let's just have a go. Like then I don't care if it fails. Well, that's not quite true, but I do. But but at the end of the day, like I didn't have any. I thought to myself, let's just do it. Let's just have a go. At the end, and going back to what I said before, if it doesn't work out, well, I've always got something to go back to. So, and that was my mentality. And if you don't try, you're never going to know. So, exactly right. Perfect point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And to be honest, I would rather fail at something than spend the rest of my life wondering, what if I would have tried that? What could have happened? And I hate that feeling. I think it has happened to me a few times in the past. There are certain ideas that I had that I thought were great ideas, but I didn't pursue them because I thought, well, that's, there's too much competition, or it's too complicated, or it's whatever reason. And I would just not do it. And years later, I'm starting to think, well, what if I would have done that? What if I tried to build that? And it's a bad feeling to have. And I can't imagine having it for the rest of your life,
Yeah, absolutely. And funny you say that, because I write a weekly blog post and post it onto my site, and it gets emailed through a newsletter that I put out once a week as well. And it was called The Number One Regret of the Dying. And that was exactly it. Like a lady, I think she's actually from Australia. She was a palliative care nurse, and she decided to write a book, and she interviewed a number of people who unfortunately were on their last days. And the number one regret was like not going out and doing achieving what they wanted. They were living on someone else's terms when they didn't go out and pursue their dreams, and that was the number one regret. So my point in the article was that let's go out there and be grateful for what we have. Let's teach our kids to be grateful for what we have, because at the end of the day, if you don't go out and achieve what we want, it's proven that by this lady's done this research that you'll regret not having a go. So, and I sort of related that back to gratitude, thinking, okay, at the end of the day, what I spoke about before, you got people around that love you. If you just work daily, you don't have to do it overnight to achieve what you want to. Like if you just chip away, this took me 2 years to get to this program where it is now, and I was working full time, but I just had to do something every day. Like some days I only did 10 minutes, but it was that momentum. It's like the compound effect. So just doing little stuff every day to work towards your goals. And I find it hard to believe whatever you do, if you've got a full-time job, if you're working 100 hours a week, there's still like 10 minutes in a day where you could work on towards what the lifestyle that you want to work, or so that you want to live. And over time, it will compound. It might take you 3 or 4, 5 years to get there. But if you're in your early 30s, you'll get there. If you're looking at 5 years, you get there by 37, 38. And looking back after that, when you're 47, you wouldn't even think about the 5 years it took to get there. You've done it. So that's the mentality that I was sort of trying to get at, to encourage people to just live how they want to live, and don't look back when they're 80, 70, 60 years of age and think, why didn't I have a go at that when I was younger? I think you just got to do it.
Yeah, that's a great mentality to have. And I think not enough of us have time to have this mentality because we're too busy stressing out about how we're going to pay our rent and put the food on the table, which is really wrong. I think it's a big problem that we live in right now.
Oh yeah, I totally agree, Alex. And it's one of those things where it's it's unfortunate because I think we get told, going back to there's a slide that I've seen recently where it says you've got the 5%. It might be out of one of the books, either Rich Dad Poor Dad or out of, I think it is Rich Dad Poor Dad. You've got this image of like this guy laying on a beach which has got 5%, and then you've got this traffic jam of 95% of people in this traffic, and like, and it's got basically, like, the point is that 5% of us live how we want to live, like on your terms, and doing what you want and making cultivating a lifestyle that you want, whereas the 95% of it, the other 95% are stuck in the traditional, okay, go to school, get a college degree, get a job, and then you work until you're 65, 70 and get that retirement package and a gold watch. Then you got a few years left to enjoy your life, like, and do what you want. It's sort of one of those things where, and then you're battling to put the food on the table of your family. You're stressed. You don't know how we're going to do it. But if we teach kids to say there is another way, that you can create a lifestyle around that you want and be in charge of in charge of your own destiny rather than relying on other people, then I think the world's going to be a much better place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see, the thing is that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. That's a fact. But I've had people on my very podcast who actually specialize in helping employees, people that want to work for someone. They help them find the job of their dreams, kind of the job that would fulfill them and make them happy. Because, as I just said, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It is a hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of skills that you need to develop, as being self-disciplined and keep on pushing forward and not being able, not having the fear of failure and stuff like that. So it's definitely not for everyone. But even if you work a job, you have to make sure you love what you're doing, because in the end, that's the whole thing. I wouldn't want to look back when I'm 65 or whatever age, look back at my life and realize that I've hated every single moment of it, or, well, at least the 8 hours a day that I've been working, I hated every single minute of it. That would really suck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And actually, you make a great point. I probably should have been a bit more clear. Like, yeah, exactly. Doing stuff you don't like. That's what I sort of meant. Like, exactly. Not entrepreneurship's not for everyone, most definitely. But if you can find that lifestyle that you love, whatever that might be doing, I should have explained that a bit better. If you can find that avenue to do that is totally awesome, because is exactly right. What's the point in going through your day, 8 hours a day, as you said, just hating what you're doing? But that's not what life is about. It's about having fun. It's about enjoying yourself. It's about but doing those things that you want to do, and that's a great. Yeah, thanks for correcting me on that. That's what I was sort of getting at, rather than.
I wasn't correcting. I was just adding onto it, because this show is targeted to entrepreneurs and people who want to become entrepreneurs, right? So the main audience of this show would want to look into entrepreneurship, or maybe they're already involved in it. So that's, it's a great thing you said there. All right, Ashley. So how we always see other entrepreneurs, how they're succeeding, and you see their business growing and they're happy and everyone's happy and everything's pink and beautiful, right? But what a lot of people don't know, that we have some, harsh and dark moments in our entrepreneurship careers. And if possible, I'd like you to share maybe one of your dark moments while building your current venture.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty easy, because there's heaps of them. Like, it's one of those things where you're going in blind. You sort of don't really know what you're doing, so you come into roadblocks all the time. And one thing that stood out early, and this was a big learning curve for me, and I think if your audience is some of you are budding entrepreneurs and haven't started yet, or just starting out, is I didn't realize exactly how a lot of things work. So what I mean is that what I did is I would create something, and because I was doing it on my own, but then I realized, okay, I can't do this. Like, for example, create a website. And what I found is like, when you create a website and rely on people to work for you that you're paying, is that I thought, okay, you tell them what you want, they go and do it, they'll meet the deadline and things like that. I thought it was just a perfect way the business worked. like everyone just does what they said, does what they said they were going to do. I assume that wasn't the case. So what I mean, I'll give you a few examples. So I went to the website developer, did a great job, very high quality work. But what we would do would sit there in the meetings. We would go through, okay, this is what we want to do. I think this will look great, this, that. And then they come to show you what they've done, and it's absolutely totally nothing like they planned, and nothing like we said. And I'm going back thinking, was I in the same meeting? Like, this is nothing like what we talked about. And that was one example. And then another example was working with a copywriter. So I create a lot of content, but my strength isn't really copywriting. So I just had a whole lot of information and stuff that I put together. So I hired a copywriter. And what happened there was a very similar thing. So again, I thought I got all this great content. I'll give it to her, and she'll put it together. And again, it just was one of those things where deadlines. I thought, okay, she said, I'll have it done in a couple of weeks, and get to her a couple of weeks. No, I still haven't done. I've got a lot of other things to do. And that was it's sort of like, it's not major things, and there's a lot of major things I can talk about, but I think it's important just to, if people are starting out, understand that not everything's going to go your way that you expect, because I had no idea. I went in blind. I thought everything was just going to run smoothly. But you've got to understand that when you do, or if you do understand that not everything's going to be perfect, and people who you employ to work for you sort of outsource stuff to, even though you're paying them, it's not always going to be all rosy, and deadlines are going to be met like I thought was going to happen in an ideal world. So you just got to be patient if that does happen. Obviously, okay, like have meetings with them, keep communicating with them, go back and forth a lot, just to keep the communication open, because I was just at the presumption when I was always brought up and always done, okay, when you say you're going to do something, you have it done. But I was soon to realise that when you're dealing with bigger businesses and people who take on a lot through their business, that doesn't always happen. So it's just something for people to be aware of. And I guess if I go into a more major failure, or not really failure, but learning curve as well, is that I created all these resources, and now this is going back a while ago now, but I created all these resources. I was pumped. I was ready to go. I thought, yep, this is what teachers want, and I've emailed the list and all these resources. This is not quite the same resources that are available because I learnt my lesson, but created these resources and thought this is going to take off. This is going to be awesome. I've got a great list. This is what people want. And the day that they were released, and I emailed everyone and put all these promotions out, the resource already, not one thing. It was just like the cricket's just sitting there waiting for the beep on the PayPal to come through, and not one resource. And what I learned from that was that a lot of those resources were originally created. So the resources that you'll find on the website now aren't the ones that I started off with. I realised that, okay, they're the ones that I thought people wanted, and did it myself without even investigating. And that was and then I realised, okay, maybe I need to find out exactly what teachers would prefer. And then I was able to. I had a few close people in that community who I felt comfortable talking with, and sort of I went back and forth with them, just saying, okay, why didn't you use or want to purchase the resource to use? You want to teach this stuff to your kids, and so they gave me some feedback. They say, let's do this. If you do this, this, and that, I think it would improve it. So I spoke to a lot of teachers and sent out a couple of little surveys and just rearranged it and made it to what teachers want, and that was the difference. So I think if you can take some advice, if you are an entrepreneur, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening have learned the hard way as well, but if you're new, make sure that you're creating something that people actually want. I know that they wanted this actual community and the global, not global, but just a wellbeing program that teachers can teach, but I assumed what the resources they would need rather than finding out from them what they wanted. So that was probably the biggest lesson I learned. But the ones that I explained at the start were just little things to be aware of, I think, but also, just to create things that you know that your target market needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. This is a great advice, Ashley. And one of the things that I really loved what you did at the very beginning of this explanation, you you were talking about failures because it was a failure.
Yep.
It was a roadblock, but you don't call it this way. You call them learning curves, which I find amazing. I think this is the way to go about it.
Oh, definitely. And going in blind, like as I said at the start, no entrepreneurial bone in my body, so I had no idea. So I knew I was fully aware from the start that there's going to be a lot of blockages. There's going to be a lot of things to get around, a lot of things to learn. But the thing, I think that you just got to start and then you learn as you go. And yeah, you do learn from those little, yeah, as you say, not really failures, but learning curves, like, and things that you didn't realize were going to happen do happen, and then you just adjust. And then if you have to deviate slightly to get through that, great. You got to learn how to do it. It's not like difficult. You just once you hit that, at the end of the day, it's not gonna, like, just because somebody hasn't a business hasn't done what they exactly said. Okay, you're disappointed at the time, but it's not the end of the world. Let's just change this. Let's change that. Okay, can you, like, really work hard to have this done by this time? It's just like a little adapting as you go. So it's not major changes either. It's just little things you have to do just to get to that end goal, I think. And if something doesn't go your way, don't get disheartened. Just keep pushing. There's always going to be a way to get through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this reminds me of the times when I was, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years old, and I was watching the Tom and Jerry.
Yep.
Right? And I never understood why Tom gave up so fast. And this is serious. Like, I was a kid, and I wasn't like just watching it as a cartoon. I was always analyzing. I'm like, look, the cat almost cut the mouse, right? He failed because he stepped on the wrong chair. Why doesn't he just try again, but step on the right chair? And it always confused me. I was like, well, why do you give up? Like, you failed, but at least now you know why. Just do the same thing, but differently with your new acquired knowledge, and this time you'll succeed. And it always bugged me.
Yeah, well, that's a great lesson to learn when you're 5 or 6 years of age. Sometimes, like, you think, like, as an adult or as a kid, what's this cartoon on about? But but if it's amazing what kids can learn. Like, I mean, as you say, you've learned that. Like, you're wondering why did you give up? Like, it's one of those things. If you can learn it from a different age, like, why? Surely there's, like, a way to do, like, as you've learned from an early age, that you've got, didn't necessarily not have learned, but you've seen people. Okay, why have you given up? So if kids can learn that at a young age, like, don't give up. And if they can pick, like, another kid that gives up easily and encourage them to don't give up, just, like, keep trying. But you've learned, what I'm trying to say is that you've learned that from a young age. And if kids can teach each other not to give up, and that spreads through, it's only going to hold society in good stead if we can, teach each other not to give up. And if you've learned, however you learn that, it doesn't matter. But if we can teach each other, it's an awesome thing for the world, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Ashley. So I've got one last question for you here. What would be your most important advice to any beginner entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably can answer that because I didn't have any entrepreneurial bone in my body. But I think you've probably heard it before, but it's true. Just start, because if you're not going to start, you're never going to know. And I would suggest that work on whatever you're going to do every day, no matter how busy you are. Even if you have a lunch break, use your lunch break. Just do 10, 15, 20 minutes. If it's just even in Googling something that might be interesting to you about what you want to create, but just those little things, like every day compounding over time. And I'd advise anybody to read The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson and The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Very similar books, and they teach that concept about just doing things every day, and over time they'll accumulate and compound to where you want to be. And that's the first book I read, The Slight Edge. So I was pretty pretty lucky to come across that when I was sort of looking into creating something, and then that really resonated with me, that point about just doing those daily positive things every day, and then over time they'll get you to where you want to. And that's the best piece of advice that I can give, is just start and do something every day. It doesn't have to be hours on end every day, but if you can, some days you can give an hour or two, great. If some days you can't, 10, 15, 20 minutes is perfect. And just building that, you don't have to achieve what you want to in 3 months. Just set your goal, just to slowly chip away at it, and over time it will get you to where you want to go. And obviously you're going to go into a lot of hurdles, because if you're looking to go into entrepreneurship, it's not easy, and you've got to come into a lot of things that, okay, what am I going to do now, because that didn't work. But you just got to, don't give up, and just keep pushing. There's always going to be a way, and just work on it every day and see where it goes. I think that's the best advice you can give, because if you don't start, then you've got nothing to create. So you've got to start, and then just keep that every day, momentum happening every day.
I love it, Ashley. And this is one of my favorite. Actually, this is my number one favorite advice. The same one as you just stated. Just do it. Just start doing it and make it. If you want to make it perfect, go ahead, make it perfect. But make it perfect eventually, not right now. Right now, you just have to jump into it and get it started and make improvements later on. My favorite advice. Thank you for sharing that. And Ashley, for people who want to get in touch with you, or maybe hire you, or find out more about what you do, where can they go?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to connect with people through my email, which is info@growingwithgratitude.com.au. That's my email. And also, you can go to the website and check it out there at www.growingwithgratitude.com. And the website's come up really well. Really happy with it. And it's everything you need to know is on the website. If you want to implement the program at home or at schools, if you've got kids at school age level, you might want to mention that there's this program out there. It's only going to help kids. So, or if you're a teacher, it's an awesome program to involve into your school. If your whole school doesn't want to do it, and you're just a teacher in your classroom, it's flexible. The whole school doesn't have to do it, but if you're a teacher and you want to do it, great. And as I said, there's a home version as well. So there's all the resources on the library. Go and register for the free resource library. Have a look at the store there, and check it out, and see what you think. And that's the best way to connect with me. If you're on Twitter, also at grow_gratitude. Is another place where I post stuff every now and then too. So that's the best way to connect.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you for sharing all your experiences, your tips, your advice, and thank you for being on the show today.
No worries, Alex. Had a great time. Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. As usual, I will be putting up show notes page at extrapodcast.com/62, where you will be able to find resources, links, and other things mentioned in today's episode. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show, leave a rating and a review, which will help me tremendously. Thank you so much once again, and I'll talk to you next Monday.